Let's start with the basic. The teachings of the Lord Buddha are comprised in the Four Noble Truths. The first of the Noble Truths is that there is dukkha. Dukkha means discontent, discomfort, suffering, pain, physical and mental pain. And I think every one of us has seen this truth arisen within us. So life itself brings this dukkha with it. Dukkha is part of our life, being it in this human form or any kind of other form. There is a form of dukkha. This is the first noble truth. The second noble truth is the truth of the origin of dukkha. The origin of dukkha is tanha. Tanha means wanting to be or not wanting to be. Wanting to be or wanting any form, wanting to be that or not wanting to be that, or wanting to become or not wanting to become. This is the origin of dukkha. The third noble truth is, it's just a statement. For people who don't like this dukkha, it's a happy statement, and it says that there is an end of all this dukkha. And the fourth noble truth is the path that leads to the end of all dukkha. And this is what we normally concentrate on when we come here to practice this path. This path is comprised of 3 columns. In the first column is the column of morality, or called sila. The second one is the column of samadhi, and the third one of wisdom, or panya. Now, sila are the 5 moral precepts. They start with not to harm any living being. That's the first one. I train myself not to harm any living being. And the second one, I train myself not to take what is not given. The third one, I train myself not to lie, use harsh speech, abusive speech. The fourth one, it's not to indulge into sexual misconduct. That means having a wife or having a partner, be faithful to this partner, not using somebody, or not using one's authority or one's position or one's money to use somebody else from the other sex or from the same sex, to use them for one's own personal pleasure. That includes dealing with animals. This is called sexual misconduct. And the fifth one, no drugs and no alcohols, everything that reduces mindfulness. While we are here in this monastery, we stick to these precepts. And these precepts, the Lord Buddha not only gave it to the monks, but he also gave it to the lay people as their protection. As their protection not to fall after the death into the lower realms. In the lower realms are the animal realms, the ghost realms, the demon realms, and the hell realms. So, when we stick to these 5 moral precepts, when we take them on us and are not willing to go against them, then this is our protection, or this is our right to become as a human being again, or to be born as a human being again. You can also see it as a passport that allows us to go back into the human realm once we are dead and we are reborn. If we don't have this passport, we only can go down to the lower realms. So, the Lord Buddha gave this as our protection. It's not against our... He didn't try to squeeze something on us that is not within the realm of his teaching. He gave us because he saw these 5 moral precepts. This will keep us in the human realm, and this will make our life more comfortable. By breaking these precepts, we might come in difficulties and we might encounter more troubles and more dukkha. So, as long as we stay here in this monastery, the 5 precepts are a must. We cannot go against any one of them. If you go out back into the world, then this is, if you want to take it on, then this is your protection. That is what the Lord Buddha teaches, and he was not wrong with seeing this. The second part of the path that leads to the end of suffering, or that leads to the end of dukkha, is called samadhi. Samadhi is concentration, is mindfulness. It is very important. Without being mindful, we are not able to see what is happening. That's quite, doesn't matter, they have to work. But the talk will become a bit distracting. So, samadhi, concentration, mindfulness. As I said, without mindfulness, we are not aware of what we are doing. Mindfulness has nothing to do with self-consciousness. When I think I'm walking, and I think I'm walking, and I think I'm walking, or I think I do this, or I do that, that does not mean we are mindful. Mindful is being aware of what is actually going on. Is being aware of why we move, why we are going, or how we are going, or what is going to move while we are going, or what is going to happen while we are doing things. This is mindfulness. Self-consciousness is just, making the concept of I'm walking. But while we are walking, we are dreaming of this or dreaming about that, or we're thinking about this or thinking about that. That is not called mindfulness. Even if I think, every minute, I'm walking, or I'm walking, or I'm walking. This is not mindfulness. Mindfulness is just being aware of what is just right going on. And we train our mindfulness by putting it on one object. One object being it the breath at the tip of the nose, and just being aware of the breath coming in or coming out, being aware of the quality of the breath, if it is shallow, if it is deep, or if it is long in breath and short out breath, or short in breath and long out breath, and so on, and so on. Or it is with the mental repetition of the word Buddha, being completely aware of the quality of the Buddha, if the Buddha is fast, or if the Buddha is slow, or if the Buddha is deep, or the Buddha is shallow, or however. This is called awareness, this is called mindfulness. being completely aware of what is going on, not trying to control the object. This is a very important thing. When we are observing the breath at the tip of the nose, we are not trying to control the breath to become calm, or to become long, or to become deep, but we are just aware of how the breath is at the time. The more we are aware, the more the breath becomes more subtle and more refined. And that the same thing happens with the word Buddha. The more we are aware of the word Buddha, the more the word Buddha becomes subtle and fine, until the word Buddha drops in our heart, and it is like a chant in a cathedral. We just need to listen to it. And the same thing happens with the breath. It's just like, there is no one breathing in and breathing out. There's just breathing in and breathing out. This is called concentration. And in most of the times, this is a state of excess samadhi. Samadhi, concentration. Samadhi has three forms. It has the form of upachara samadhi, that means excess concentration. That is a medium state of samadhi. Then it has the deep state of samadhi. That's called also appana samadhi. In the deep state of samadhi, when the breath disappears, or when we cannot even think the word Buddha anymore, then we retract to the one who knows that the breath has disappeared, or the word Buddha, we cannot think of it anymore. We retract off to the one who knows. Once the moment we retract to the one who knows, duality will vanish and there's just singularity. When singularity happens, then all what remains is the one who knows. And that means in our physical experience that the body disappears. At first, this can be a long time or it can be a short time while the body disappears. And the next thing is that the whole world of senses disappears. And all what left is the one who knows. All what left is the knowing nature of the citta. This is called appana samadhi. This is once we go into there, and when we come back out of it, that's what we call the first wonder of meditation. The first wonder of our practice. Because we have never ever experienced something like that. Also Tanaja Mahabodha calls it the Nibbana of the little man. Nibbana of the little man just means that it is a preview of Nibbana. It's a preview of when everything ceases to exist. And just what is left is the true nature of our heart, the knowing nature of our heart. That's why it's called a preview of Nibbana. If we want to make sure that this path is going to lead us to something worthwhile, then we might want to check it out by going into this deep state of samadhi. But for in order to go on this deep state of samadhi, we need to have ample concentration. We need to be able to concentrate on this one point until everything else disappears. So that means we cannot let the mind go out anywhere. We don't want the mind go around, stroll around, get this senses or get that senses, makes meanings of this or make meaning of that. We don't want it. We want just to concentrate on that one point, be it the tip of the nose or be it the word Buddha. Once we are not willing to let the mind go out, the mind, like a wild animal who is fixed to a rope and a pole, has nothing else to do than fall asleep. And this kind of fall asleep or take a deep breath is also the appana samadhi. Once it falls asleep, it's not moving around anymore. In this wild animal, this citta, is that what we need to train to do this, to go and have a deep breath. Once we are in the state of appana samadhi, and once we come back out, then we know we are completely refreshed, like we have taken a long, deep rest. A rest that we normally don't get within our sleep. It is much deeper, so we feel completely refreshed, not only the mind is refreshed, but also the body is refreshed. Because within this time, the body could ease itself off. The chitta didn't control the body anymore, and didn't move it here and didn't move it there, or didn't make any tensions. So when we come out of the state of samadhi, we feel refreshed in both the body and in the mind. And the mind is extremely sharp, so it takes on and sees very clearly once we put it then to investigation. And investigation is the tool for developing wisdom. That is the last part of the path, wisdom. Wisdom is not gaining a lot of knowledge. Wisdom is developed in the heart. Wisdom is a skill, a technique that we have to develop in order to see what is underneath, in order to see the things as they really are. We can read a lot of books, we can read all of the books of the Tipitaka, that means the threefold baskets of all the Buddha's teaching, but we still know, or we are able to know, but we are only able to know with the function of our brains. We don't have seen the truth yet. We understand what is said in the text, maybe we understand it, but still we have not seen it for ourselves. It's like if we read the books about the city of Rome, but we have never been actually to the city of Rome. Once we are in the city of Rome, there is no need to read any more books about Rome. This is the experience of visiting the city of Rome. But as long as we have not gone to this city, we need to read a lot of books. And these lot of books are a lot of opinions about all the people who have visited or all the people who have inferred about the city. Once we go there, then we know for ourselves. And that is the path of wisdom. We have actually to go there. We have actually to make all the experience the Lord Buddha teaches us. We have to make the experience. We have to teach our heart. We have to make this experience for ourselves. And there is no way that we just can read books or we listen to talks to get the experience for ourselves. All what we get is knowledge. And this knowledge on the path of practice normally has one bad side effect. It will hinder us to progress along the path. So as little as we know, the better it is. We just do the work, and the work will lead us there. The work is so simple that most of the people cannot do it. Because they are so used to such a complex style of life, they are so used to such complex thinking that they cannot make simple tasks, that they cannot fulfill simple tasks. Just like the task, just being able to concentrate on one point. We are not able to do it. It's the most simple task. The other task is just to concentrate on an object to understand its functioning, to see it for ourselves. It's so difficult. All what we can do is try to interfere, to cut it up and see it, how it works. And this is what we have to do with our inner eyes when we investigate the five khandhas. The five khandhas, as I said often, or I said before, the five khandhas are the five groups that make us, or that make I, or that make ourselves. That makes all this world. And these five groups consist of the body, or also called rupa in Pali, of feeling, of bodily feeling or mental feeling, it's called vedana, of memory and associations that are called sanya, of thinking that is called sankhara, thinking, short forms of thoughts, views and opinions, and at last the group of consciousness. Consciousness, just being able to be conscious of that there is a sense input at one of our senses. This is all what is consciousness is. That is all what is there. Everything else is made up out of these 5 ingredients or out of these 5 groups. This whole world, this whole universe is just made up. We can only experience it within this realm of the 5 khandhas, within this realm of the 5 groups. It's either when we look at the body, then the body has the 6 senses. The 6 senses are sight, are hearing, are tasting, are smelling, are touching, and thinking. So, and what else is there? When we open our eyes, we see, and we think we see this or we see that. But when we are young, when we are still a baby, we still have to learn what we see. Because in the beginning, we don't know what we see. We just see forms, and we have to create this mental concept of this form is a table or this form is a chair, and then we have to create this concept that this chair one can sit on and from this table one can eat. So we have trained this body for long enough so that it can deal with all these environments. Now we have to go the way backwards. We have to go backwards to the actually experience of these words, of this whole world. What does it mean? When we use our language, we use a lot of symbols, but what do they actually mean? What do they actually mean in terms of experience? What is there? When we go down to our experience, it all comes down either to Vedana, to a feeling, or to a memory, or to an association, or to a thought. And that's what it boils down. Or it comes down to the body, or it comes down to consciousness. This whole world, when we think about it, is comprised of these 5 khandhas, of these 5 groups. Just like when we use a computer, we have all these different applications that can type words, or that can make layout for books, or that can read books, or that can listen to music, or that can view videos and things like that, or can make graphic or design or whatever. When we go down back to what it all comprises, or from where it all originates, then we go back down to the hardware, and then we see there's only the simple command of turning this transistor on and this transistor off. So it's a 2-valued logic. And with this 2-valued logic, we have this complete fascination when we turn on the computer. Because we have the feeling that we can do a lot of things. But when we boil it down to what it really comprises of, or what it really, originates from, then it's just a combination of 0 and 1. Just a combination of on and off. If somebody, in the middle of a movie switches to the combination of 0 and 1, I don't think anybody would be interested in watching this movie anymore. So, and this is our task with the same thing. Now think about, we have these 5 khandhas where this whole universe is comprised of. So when we switch it, when we come back down to these 5 groups and see whatever arises within this universe, within us, within these 5 groups, then we also have the same effect. We get disillusion from this whole work. We see, okay, this is arising, or that is arising, this is ceasing, and that is ceasing. Like this is on, and like this is off. We just see a combination of the 5 groups. One group is triggering the other. For instance, consciousness tells us that there is a sense input at our arm, and a feeling arises, and that is an unpleasant feeling, and then a thought comes up, I don't like this unpleasant feeling, then a memory comes up, I had this unpleasant feeling, and so on, until I get afraid that I have something, a skin cancer. That can happen within a minute, that can happen within half a minute. So fast is our brain, so fast is our things to process. And with this result of this conclusion, just from the little sense data that came into our sense contacts, we conclude that we have skin cancer. Or if something is not working in our body, then maybe we have lung cancer, or we have this kind of disease, or we have that kind of disease. Or when we sit long enough, then we think we break our leg. I haven't seen anybody sitting long enough so that he breaks his leg while sitting. But of course we get this information pretty quickly once we sit in meditation just for 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 hours. When we sit in the car for 4 or 5 hours, nobody even feels the pain. And nobody has ever broken his leg while sitting for 5 hours in the car or 11 hours on the plane. But we get this information, and this is wrong information, and we make up this information, and we don't understand how we make up this information. And the path of Panya and the path of wisdom is to understand how this information is produced. So, to actually see for ourselves that there is a Vedana, that there is a feeling, and with this feeling this triggers a thought, and with this thought the feeling is amplified, and with this amplified feeling a memory is triggered, and with this memory triggering the feeling is more amplified until within half a minute or within a second we have anger arising. But anger is nothing of the primary components that I talked of. Anger is a composition of the 5 khandhas. Love is the same thing. Greed, hate, and delusion are things that use these 5 khandhas to make it work in the way it works at the moment. And we have to understand this way of making it up. We really have to understand. And that's why it is so important to have mindfulness, to completely be aware of every single process that takes place within our citta. When I talk about the citta, it's the function of the heart and the function of the brain in one combination. So the rational aspect and the emotional aspect. That is all called the citta. And from the citta everything originates. So if the citta is quiet, like if the citta is in the deep state of samadhi, the body will not fudge. The body will not move. Because the citta is quiet. If the citta doesn't send out a signal, the body doesn't do anything. It's like with the driver of the car. If the driver does nothing, the car will not move. If the driver puts down the accelerator, the car moves fast. If it puts down the brake, then the car will stop. If it turns the wheel left, then it goes left, and when it turns the wheel right, then it goes right. And the same thing happens with the citta. The citta is the driver of this body. So if the citta is completely quiet and there's nothing going out from the citta, then the body is extremely quiet as well. It doesn't move, it doesn't fudge, it doesn't do anything. It just breathes its normal function, and the blood is flowing. That's all what is happening. So, if we want to understand if we really want to understand how these things all evolve, then we have to investigate and see and become mindful and become aware of the process going on within our own chitta. And the chitta is just right there. It's just right in the middle of the chest. It's very close to the heart because it uses the heart as like the driver uses the accelerator brake in the wheel to drive this body. That's why it's very close to the physical heart. Because from there on, with the physical heart, it needs to drive the body. So this is the path of investigation. Understanding the things how they really are. Understanding for what is what. Understanding coming down from the language of the symbols to the real experiences. That is our task. But first of all, we need to make the mind calm. We need to shut the engine or to shut down our brain. If we don't shut down our brain, we will not get anywhere. Because then the brain, if the brain jumps here and jumps there, thinks about this or thinks about that, or even if we set it now on a topic of investigation, it will stay at the topic for at least 3 or 4 thoughts, and then it will jump to another topic. And then it will jump to another topic that is related to the first topic. And then, and after 2 hours we are gone far, far, far away. So first of all, we have to shut down the engine of the brain to make it completely quiet. Once we have made it completely quiet, once the heart is refreshed and clear and completely clear, then we can set it to work, and then it will work and we'll see how the things evolve. And that's why it is so necessary to bring the mind to a rest. And that is our first talk. That is our first task. This is what we have to learn. To be able to concentrate the mind on one object. Just one object. Not 2 objects, nor 3 objects, or 4 objects. Not jumping here and jumping there. Just this one object. The task itself is difficult enough. Because the mind likes to run or swing from tree to tree like a monkey. That's why it's also called a monkey mind. The untrained mind is considered to be a monkey mind. So, before we are able to start investigation, before we are able to start the investigation of the body and its senses, or feeling, or memory and association, or thinking, or consciousness, we have to calm the mind down. And as I said, once we calm the mind down so that it gets down in Upachara Samadhi, then we experience a very peaceful, a very happy state of mind. So this is the first stage. This is the first stage of Samadhi. The happiness and contentedness of the mind. Because the mind is settled down, and all what it does in this kind of state is just experiencing. Just experience all the different phenomena that still exist in this universe. So, going in Upachara Samadhi will make our mind calm, will make our mind happy and contented. And happy and contented as it has never been before in our whole life. And that is something worthwhile to look at. It's something worthwhile to pursue. A lot of people have pursued in the gold rush in America, have pursued 40 years of hardship and hard life just to get a piece of gold. And they worked all the day, and they ate the minimum of food, just to become a piece of gold. Once they found it, they spend it within or for their pleasures, and within 5 or 10 days or maybe 10 months, it was gone. Now we are working on something that brings us the piece of gold within our heart. And this we have to develop. This we don't need anything else. We don't need any tools than the tools of concentrating the mind on one object. So considering our environment here, where we get every day good food, where we have some sleep, and where we have actually quite a comfortable life, all what we need, our work is not as tough as the tough of a gold digger. But what we get from our work is seeing or finding the gold within our own heart. And happiness and contentedness and peacefulness of a heart where we have nothing to do else than to concentrate it on one point. And then these states of happiness or contentedness or peacefulness will arise automatically as a result of our work. As a result of our work. Not because we are looking for it, but because we are doing our work. So, I hope you understand it. And today it's not really quiet, so I'll ask to stop here for the moment.